The XRP price chart is at a critical decision-making moment, and it's been a while since we had a moment like this because price was essentially just trading sideways. But we're finally at the moment where I'm expecting a pretty big move in volatility, and in this video, we're going to talk about exactly what formation we're watching here and when we can expect a breakout. I also want to talk about some new competition for Ripple when it comes down to payments. In this video, I'm going to talk about a brand new competitor. Because guys, this is no small competition. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange uphold down in the description of this video. But that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to jump right into the video and talk about what I find to be extremely interesting, which is Ripple's new competition. And this is someone who I expected to be competition at some point in the future. They're already competing on some parts of their business, and that new competitor is going to be Circle. Now, Circle just launched Circle Payment Network, which is in some ways similar to what Ripple does with their ODL products. Now, Circle says right here that they're going to be focusing on things like remittances, which is a direct competitor to what Ripple does, as well as treasury services, which is another direct competitor to what Ripple is doing with RLUSD. Now, obviously, Circle and Ripple already now compete on the stablecoin playing field. Circle is winning that one by a very large margin. I think RLUSD will catch up. But now Ripple is dominating in terms of payments, and Circle is trying to get into that business. Now, a lot of people are probably looking at this like worried, like, oh no, Circle's going to come in. This is bad for Ripple. This is bad for XRP. We'll talk about that in a second, but just take a look at this right here. They're also focusing on invoicing and payroll. So these are things that Ripple really isn't trying to do, and I think this is what's really going to differentiate these two products. It seems like to me, Circle is very focused on more of like the business front end, kind of like a Square alternative where you can kind of run a business using USDC rather than using your more traditional fiat payment rails. And Circle is trying to push kind of a retail level mass adoption from retailers, right? The people who are buying, selling goods, moving money from business to business, more like small business capability. When you take a look at what Ripple is doing using people like Hidden Road, it's a completely different application, right? What we know Ripple is really trying to do is really become a clearinghouse, right? Recently, we got a statement from Ripple saying that the XRP ledger will be used for all post-trade on Hidden Road's prime brokerage services. So this is more like a large dollar clearing. This is more of like large institutional wholesale settlement. So to me, just in the products alone, there seems to be a pretty big differentiator when it comes down to how these two companies are kind of running these payment products. Ripple's not really doing front end, small business, smaller dollar transactions, things like credit cards, debit cards, right? That's not really what Ripple's doing. Ripple's more of like, hey, you need to do billion-dollar movements of money. Hey, you need to be able to clear these large trades. Hey, you need to have serious dollar-denominated margin liquidity against assets. We want that tokenized. It's a much more institutional back-end sort of service. Well, it looks like what Circle is trying to do is a lot more front-end niche payments when it comes down to small businesses and stuff like that. So just when it comes down to these products, before anyone gets worked up, no, I don't think this is really direct one-on-one competition. But even if it was, I think it's actually a good thing. If you take a look at some of the most boring, least innovative, terrible companies in the world, it's all companies with no competition. It's these companies that are government contractors who essentially have infinite runways. They essentially have no risk to their business, and therefore they don't change anything. They don't innovate. They don't do anything new. And therefore, even if we do see a Ripple Circle competition, I mean, that's outstanding for both businesses. Competition is what drives innovation, and Ripple has continued to dominate when it comes to cryptocurrency innovation and building out ways for traditional financial players to get involved in blockchain technology. So never look at competition as some kind of bad thing. We saw Ripple competition when it came to R3. Now it seems like everyone's done talking about private blockchains. We saw Ripple competition with JP Morgan coin and whatever that was, that kind of turned into a nothing burger. So we'll continue to see competition pop up for Ripple, and that's only a good thing. That's what drives innovation. That's what makes these companies more powerful. And ultimately, that's how we get the game-changing products that we are going to need going into this future financial system. So we're talking about $100 quadrillion financial system, or whatever the world financial system is. There's plenty of money out there for the front end business side, the back end settlement side, the clearing. All of these different protocols are always going to have their own niche, their own specific application where they really shine. And they're really targeting two completely different things. But just wanted to bring it to your attention. I know a lot of people are probably going to be looking at that and saying, oh, how big is this competition? Is this a problem? Are they copying Ripple? In my opinion, is a very different product suite, as a very different application. And when it comes down to it, personally, I like what Ripple's doing a lot more. I'm not that interested in, oh, I go to the store and I want to pay with some USDC, and then that company is able to pay their employees with USDC and everyone's just using USDC. Like, that to me is really, it's interesting, but not that interesting. What I'm really interested in is the wholesale settlement, the actual settlement of bonds, equity, and debt on a tokenized financial system, the ability to clear trades, move money in fractions of a second on a whole scale kind of level, the rewiring of the deepest pools of liquidity on the planet. Like, that's what I'm more focused on. To me, it just doesn't seem like even what Circle announced is really targeting any of that. So is it competition? In some ways, probably, yeah, there will be some overlaps, but I really do only think that is a good thing for both companies moving forward. So with all that covered, I know what a lot of people are probably sticking around for is the XRP price chart. And to be honest, this is kind of one of the more exciting times I've seen in a bit. So if we pull up the XRP price chart and take a look at exactly where we're standing right now, obviously we had that large pump up in XRP. We reached that high of about $3.40. And ever since then, we've really been stuck in this downtrend. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, that's bearish. It's normal. We just went on a 500 to 600% rally. Totally expected to see some kind of leveling off or pullback before hopefully making that next leg up. But what's so interesting is we're really meeting two very strong points that are coming together. And typically when you see things like that, right, you normally have an explosion of volatility to either the upside or downside. Now, we can talk about ad nauseum why I think it's going to be the upside. I'm pretty much a permabull when it comes to XRP. I think there's too much innovation. It's too undervalued. There's too many big things coming in order for this market to be discounting XRP. But with the world in the place it is right now, with the trade wars, with the tariffs, with all that stuff going on, you really never know how the market's going to digest any of this short-term news. Now, that said, if we take a look at the two ranges coming together, obviously we have this $2 support that's held extremely strong. We've came down, tested it a couple times. We had a potential scare here where it looks like we broke down below. Really, we got sucked back up right below it. And now we're trading right on top of this thing. The other resistance we have, right? We just talked about the support at $2. The other resistance we have is kind of this line coming down right here. And this has continued to sort of knock us down and prevent progress since February. I mean, since late March, we've kind of been getting rejected by this resistance. So it looks like we are still getting rejected by that as of now, but XRP is going to have to make a decision soon. We're coming right to the end of this thing. It doesn't look like we get much farther than mid-May before we have a decision here. And XRP is going to have to make a call. It's either going to have to rip upwards in terms of volatility out of this top level resistance, or it's going to have to fall below this $2 support. And that's kind of that big thing we're watching for right now. Where is XRP going to make that next move? Now, it seems to me we'll have a decision on this probably fairly soon. Probably only have to wait a couple more weeks before seeing which way this pops. Now, personally, like I talked about, like I'm pretty confident, or at least I'm pretty hopeful and bullish that this will be to the upside. And that's because obviously we have the resolution of the Ripple SEC case. We have those XRP ETFs coming in. And also we've got a lot of big announcements in terms of clearinghouses working with Ripple, large financial institutions, tokenization of more products on the XRP ledger, a lot of new feature sets coming to the XRP ledger, DeFi coming to the XRP ledger. There's a lot happening in the XRP ecosystem that really hasn't caught the public's attention yet. I think the public's going to catch on. Like, I don't think this secret of blockchain technology is going to be hidden too much longer. And I really do think with the more financial institutions getting involved, a lot of them are going to be asking the question of like, hey, why are we allocated to Ethereum? Why are we allocated to this when XRP's been staring us in the face, making these massive gains, outperforming against the rest of the market, and there's real innovation there. So I think there's too many bullish catalysts from where we sit in terms of the holistic, wide scale adoption of cryptocurrency when it comes down to the institutional use cases and how Ripple's positioned there, and how I see the future of this industry playing out for XRP to really be suppressed at its current levels much longer. I often look at the long-term XRP price chart, right? XRP going back to 2018, and think about how were people willing to pay $3 for an XRP in 2018 and only $2 for XRP now? Given the announcements we have seen, given the understanding we now have of this asset class and how much the XRP ledger ecosystem has grown, it almost seems insane to think that that could be a reality, but it is. And it's not uncommon to see this in markets, right? Back during the dot-com bubble, you saw companies like Amazon and Apple reach astronomical valuations, and it took them a while to really recover from that and really allow people to figure out what they really had, what the value of what they held was. But once they started to wrap their head around it, they started to say, oh, wait, that valuation we were paying during the dot-com bubble, yeah, it was high, it was overinflated, it had a blow off top, all these things that came crashing back down. But this is still nothing in comparison to where this is going to go over the long run. Just a funny little personal story. I remember my grandpa telling me that he bought Amazon at the very top of the IPO bubble, the dot-com bubble, and he was still up tens of thousands of percent on those shares over the long run. So I think you're likely seeing a very similar thing with the cryptocurrency space right now. Not a lot of people truly understand this space. I always say this, 99% of people don't understand crypto, and 99% of the people of the 1% who do understand crypto still don't understand crypto. So it's still a big learning experience, but judging based off the things I have seen, I have never been more confident where XRP sits in this entire thing. And now it's just up for the price chart to make its mind. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.